I just saw a guy set himself on fire. I saw a guy hang himself. I saw people stabbing each other, and I was covered in blood, their blood.
This episode, we'll talk to a gentleman who's making waves and changes throughout the entire state of North Carolina.
He's fought for change, inspired communities, and his story is one you don't want to miss.
This conversation is going to be raw, impactful, and we hope you get a lot from this, so please join us.
Smoke and Ice begins now.
Welcome to Smoke and Ice with Kelly and Wayne. This is the podcast where you're not only informed, but entertained. Sit back, relax, and remember, where there's smoke, there's fire, and you can't chill without ice. Now, here are your hosts, Kelly Allen and Wayne McCullers.
You've now tapped into another episode of Smoke and Ice, where smoke meets sophistication and ice meets intensity. I'm Kelly Allen.
And I'm Wayne McCullers. And this episode, we have a great guest for you. I've known this gentleman for over 30 years. I watched him as we went from boys to men and just made phenomenal impacts within the state of North Carolina. Today, we're proud to talk to Mr. Wendell Powell.
Welcome.
Well, I'm glad to be here. What's going on?
So glad to have you.
Hey.
So before we get started, as we always do, we start off with our bourbon of the week. And this week we're going with Knob Creek. Now it has the notes that most bourbon has. It's going to have the caramel, the vanilla, the toasted oak. But this one is powerful and smooth. And it's slightly spicy. Not as spicy as some of the other. But it's a really, really good choice if you would like to try a bourbon. So, my good sir, I'm going to give it to you. Let you pour it.
After doing the Price is Right hold, come on down. All right, let's go ahead and pour up.
All right.
Let's see. Here.
Don't be a little shy. Don't be shy now.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, is that enough?
No, about your glass, not mine.
Don't be calling me out on syndicated airwaves.
He's being reserved.
Reserved.
Well, I'll
okay.
tell you what, you know what?
Go ahead. Make a little dark.
There we go. All right. All right. Now, our cigar of choice, Mr. Powell. Oh, I'm sorry.
Are we going to not toast?
I'm sorry. I'm ready for the cigar. I'm sorry. Let's taste it.
Me too.
Cheers to
I'm
you.
the bourbon girl.
All right.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Nice and smooth.
Let's get the cigars. So, today's cigars, Mr. Powell chose out. So, why don't you tell us about your selection, sir?
Well, Undercrown, it was actually the cigar, the best cigar in 2021. It was a top cigar. So it's a very good medium blend. It burns well, so it's always a crowd pleaser.
Okay.
And the name?
This is Undercrown.
Undercrown. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You know, I saw Maduro on the end, and so I was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
That's
Undercrown.
the style.
Have you tasted the Connecticut?
The Connecticut is very well. I smoke both, but yeah, the Maduro. Maduro has a full body. It gets you right.
All right.
And is this another Drew Estates?
Yes, this is another Drew Estates.
I think we keep picking from Drew Estates.
I mean, we're just saying. We said your name quite a few times now. I'm just saying.
Here you are.
Oh, well.
And I think you got one on that side.
They make quality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can't deny that.
Nice.
Well, Mr. Powell, before we get started, tell us a little bit about your journey. You are originally from Chicago, Illinois, correct?
Yes.
All right.
I was born in Chicago, the mean streets. But you know, it was funny. You know, living in Chicago, being with my family. You know, Chicago's crazy, and you know, of course, my parents wanted something better, so they decided, hey, with the gang situation, and I lost a lot of family members, a lot of cousins. They were like, hey, we need a different pace. So they actually moved to North Carolina, and my father was a pastor, so he started building a church. So in the meantime, while he was building the church, we actually ended up going to Atlanta to work for him, for his job. So my mom packed us all up. We all went to Atlanta, and we lived there for a while until the church was ready and they built us a house in North Carolina. And then after that, we came back to North Carolina.
Let me ask you a question, because even though we've known each other since like teenagers, I was always scared to ask Pops this. Didn't Pops play professional football?
Yes, he played for the New York Giants.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he played professionally for some years, but then, you know, the church called him. God called him, and he felt that he was better served helping people than living that kind of lifestyle. So,
Right. Understood.
So, being born and kind of raised in Chicago, partly at least, how do you feel like that shaped your leadership style?
well, I learned how to deal with people. I learned how to be self-sufficient. I learned how to stand on my own. I learned how to navigate and figure out things quickly. You know, when you're in those environments, you know, when you're taking buses and trains and you're you're young, you know, you're kind of you have to learn quick. There's not the curve is a steep curve, so you either get in or get left behind. Right. So you got to figure it out. So I think that helped me. And then living in Atlanta, I took buses and trains to school. You know, this is all before cell phones, no GPS, didn't have a map. It was just, you better be home from school on time or you'll get your butt beat.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
we've known each other since 15 years old. We've seen each other grow. We've seen each other expand. We've seen each other do a lot of stuff within our lives. That journey from boys to men, what was that like for you?
For me, I mean, you know, the time we all spent on the green box, on our missions, going across town, you know, just going to clubs, parties. I mean, it was an experience because it was like a brotherhood. We had a lot of good experiences, but it was also crazy to see how we as men now, where we started off just being some knuckleheads, getting into trouble, seeing the darker side of life, you know, seeing the streets, seeing people selling drugs, seeing people using drugs and having friends that are getting in shootouts and getting into situations, how we were able to navigate and become positive and actually have families, have kids, and actually start working for corporations and companies. You know, I worked for the Department of Corrections and actually doing positive things and, you know, giving back to the community, whether it's mentoring or just helping people grow. So, or helping people, teaching people how to take care of their families. So I think that's a big turnaround from that song, Boys to Men. I mean, we're now pillars of the community. We're now speaking out on injustices and talking about what's right or wrong, or looking at how people can better themselves financially, and just learning what, you know, I dabble in politics. So teaching people how to understand what politics means, you know, how to vote, what it means when you're voting, what's going on locally or nationally, the differences, and understanding the bills. So I think we've come leaps and bounds a long way.
And I'm glad that you mentioned corrections, because you've been in corrections for over 20 years.
Yes.
So how did you decide to go into corrections?
Yes, please tell us this.
The funny thing is, I always liked law enforcement. I always thought I was going to be a police officer, or I thought it was fun. I thought it would be fun because I knew the streets. I understood the criminal lifestyle. You know, I knew people that lived in those dark places. So I also understood that people do things out of necessity. Everybody's not bad. So when you have an understanding of people, you also understand that how the police treat you, because I came up in an era where police would pick you up, beat you, kick you out, and be like, get out of here, go home. Or if we see you around here, something's gonna happen, you know. So you also see injustices, and you also see how treatment is. So as you come up, it's like, man, I want to be the voice of reason. I want to do something positive and show that, hey, everybody's not bad. Most people have good intentions. They just sometimes life just deals you a bad hand. You can't handle, you know, circumstances are circumstances. but it's how we navigate those circumstances and work through it is what makes us better.
So I would say from us growing up, I never thought you would choose that field because we were doing so much.
Yeah. We're going to keep it PG.
Oh, yeah, we're going to keep it PG. So before I ask my next question, while it's on mine, let me say this for those who don't know. So when I met Mr. Powell, I'm not going to call him by the nickname we got, his parents were the only one in that side of the neighborhood that didn't look at me different. I was rough around the edges, long dreads, looked like I just robbed somebody and all that other stuff. But his parents took me in and showed me love and became my parents like since then. So with that being said, I had to give a shout out to Mom and Pop. With that being said, being in law enforcement, what made you decide to run and join the union for the state of North Carolina?
Well, when what's funny, basically you're voluntold.
Right.
When you first joined the prison, my warden at the time, which actually became one of my biggest mentors, he was like, hey, you're a new officer, these are your benefits, this is the group that fights for you, seen it, the State Employees Association of North Carolina. They go to the General Assembly, they make sure we get our benefits, our pension, make sure they fight for everything that we go through. So I was like, he was like, sign up. It wasn't like, hey, here's an option. It was like, you sign up. So we signed up. And after that, after working, he was like, I see some promise in you. You're pretty smart. You need to come to a meeting and see what the business side is. Because, you hear about, hey, this is what they do, but it's different when you go to a meeting and actually sit in there and they start talking about what's happening at the legislature, what's happening locally in the community, how these bills are affecting our pay, our kids, our lifestyle, what this means if you pass this. They're passing acts that make our records public where people can look at, our salaries, look at our disciplinaries, look at, whether we make mistakes, so you start going, I didn't realize how much this really affects what I do, so, I took an interest to it and I enjoyed it.
And then you became an advocate for people. Oh, yeah. And that's a really good thing. And you pretty much explained it already, but what else was the drive in wanting you to advocate for state employees?
Well, I got a chance to actually sit in on committees. I actually got a chance to go to the legislature and see how the inner worker, listening to them talk and understanding that when they talk about state employees, they talk about you like because you're a number. Mm-hmm. You're basically a salary number or a position number, and that's it. So when they're talking about state employees, I felt like, what in the world? I'm a person. I have kids. I'm an individual. I care about the state. I'm doing a job. But to you, I'm just a revenue point. Something that you either want to get rid of so you can use that money for something else, or we're just expendable. And I thought that was very much a disservice because most people care about their jobs and they care about what happens. So that really got me fired up and really seeing how things work behind the scenes. It's like pulling the veil back. You went to see the wizard. You're like, oh man, the wizard's going to do everything great. And then you pull back the curtain and it's a bunch of people just on their own, mission, and they're self-serving. So now it's like, hey, we need to put a light to this. We need to voice. And there's a lot of people who don't understand how it works. Right. And you want to make sure, hey, you want to educate them and show them this is how things work. This is how you can better yourself, and make yourself grow, not just personally, but for your family. And you can make better educated choices. And that's what I really want, is people to make better educated choices for themselves.
Right. Okay. I remember in 98, I worked for the Treasury Department, and I think around 98, Sync was just getting started. I remember when it was first getting started and putting stuff together, and it's like, okay, well, what is this? And to see it grow and to sit here and to be talking to you in this position now is amazing. With that being said, what do you do, or how can you make it a safe space where people can come and, vent frustrations, talk to you, make change, make difference? How can you do that?
Well, currently I'm the first vice president of the State Employees Association. One of the things I do is, like I said, I advocate. I go down to the legislature periodically, depending on what bills. Like right now, we're fighting about the health care, because next year they're changing the premiums. Mm-hmm. Right now they just passed legislation where you're being charged by your premium is based on what your rate of pay is. So my door is always open. I have contact information. People can contact me with their issues and problems. Other things I do is I go around to the different departments. I meet with department heads. I go to agency events. I talk to the people doing the work in all the different agencies and get their questions and concerns. And then I take that back to the legislature or our leadership, because the way Scenic is formed, we have we are governed by our board of governors, which is like 51 chairs. Then we're also ran by the executive committee, which I sit on, and we have a president. So we run all these different ideas and with different plans through the board, and we make an action plan, and we go ahead and we try to work it out. We attack different areas, whether there's a problem with DOT, whether there's issues with DMV, where there's problems in the school system, where there's issues with the hospitals. Well, hospitals have been going through a lot lately. UNC just left the state health plan, which is causing major waves. Those are a lot of people. And now they're not accepting, the old people into the system. Only the new employees can get into their system, which leaves a big hole for the state health plan to cover. So like I said, there's a lot of things going on within the state that we're just trying to address. And right now, like I said, we have ways people can contact us, whether it's our website, emails, questions, concerns. Mm-hmm. My phone number's out there so they can call. We also have a Scenic Cares, which a lot of people call if they have problems on the job, problems with their managers, issues. So like there's a lot of different things I do to address those issues and try to be present for our membership. Right. I am a captain at a prison, so I understand the micro and the macro. I understand. My view is making sure everybody's good, and everything's delegation and holding people accountable. So you have to understand what the lowest level of employee is going through, up to where you are, and understanding the problems they're facing, the issues that they have to deal with. Also understanding the mix between work and family, because when you work for the state, as working for the treasurer, the state's always demanding, but you still got a life. You still got to navigate your life, your kids. You still got to make sure school's taken care of, on top of the other things.
So, with that being said, how do you balance that?
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I call it no sleep. Uh-huh. I mean, if right now, I'm actually working night shift. So when I get off, I'm checking emails. I'm getting on Zoom calls, depending on what meetings or where in the state, because I travel across the state. If they need me in the west, I travel 4 or 5 hours to go to the west. So my schedule, I try to keep it flexible so that I can address the needs of the association, because we have almost, over 40,000 members. So we might have issues in the coast. I might have to drive 2 hours. So, and people have questions, and our members want to know what's going on. They want to know, what are we doing? Where are we at? We have paid political staff that actually stay at the General Assembly to address the issues, because we are working. I'm working. So I can't be at the General Assembly all the time. But I get constant updates, and I'm always keeping my finger on the pulse of what's going on across the state in our different departments so that I can address whatever issues that come up or arise.
So it sounds like you consistently make sacrifice. And in both roles, you know, the main stigma that people have that don't know you is the sacrifice that you have to make as a correctional officer. What are some of the things that you can tell our audience that would change their perception of what it is that you do and who you are?
Well, I'm a person. I'm a human being. I know a lot of times, as a captain, I field a lot of phone calls from the public. I deal with the public all the time. Families call, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, grandmothers. They call, hey, I want to know about my child. I want to know about my husband. I want to know about my son. What's going on? Are they being treated fairly? And a lot of times people watch a lot of TV. Prison is not what you think it is. They think we're what you see on TV and what they glamorize. We're locked down and we're beating up offenders and we're taking away privileges. Prison, most time prison is very mundane. It's very systematical. They go to school, they go to breakfast, they go to lunch, they go to dinner, they work out, they go to medical appointments. You know, we make sure they have all the stuff they're supposed to have. And I think the perception is something different than what it truly is. And I work hard to try to show people that we are human beings. We care. We care about what happens to, you know, we have deaths in the prisons. You know, we form bonds with the different offenders. We know them by name. We know their story. We talk to them. So we understand what they're going through. We celebrate their successes when they get their GED, when they get into programs, or they're welding, or they're doing well at certain jobs. And we also try to help them move through the system. So there are stigmatisms that people have of law enforcement in the prison system that we're trying to erase. At the end of the day, we want them to come back out and be productive citizens. I mean, there are some bad seeds that need a little bit more work, but overall, most correctional staff care.
All right, let's get a little juice. So out of 20 years in the correctional system, if you can talk about what's the craziest thing you've seen? Oh yeah, I'm gonna ask that question. What have you seen? Do you need more in your glass, sir?
I mean, I've seen some very funny things. I've seen some very serious things. I've seen stabbings. I've seen staff assaults. I've seen people doing dumb stuff. I mean, and it just makes no sense. I mean, we laugh at it, but you know, I've seen the best in people and I've seen the worst. I've seen people who really need mental health evaluations. Unfortunately, when the mental health system crashed and they started they shut down Dorothea Dix, they started outsourcing. Right. They came into the prisons because they were functional. But now we've had to become counselors, mental health experts, because some people are marginal. They're functional, but they do have deep-rooted mental health issues that need to be addressed. And sometimes the system cannot address so many.
Well, how do you balance that? Because, you know, all those people who work for Dorothea Dix, they have, you know, counselors have counselors.
Yes.
Psychologists have psychologists. You know, you have to have somebody to walk you through some things. Like you say, you've seen some funny things, you've seen some bad things. How do you balance that?
I think I'm a unicorn, because one thing I try to teach my staff: have a outside balance. Get rest. I preach this in my lineups. You know, when you get a day's off, 'cause we have overtime, and my staff works hard. A lot of your correctional staff work very hard and long hours. So please give them understanding and grace. You know, and I tell them, when you're off, check out, get rest, go to the spa, work out, go to the gym. A correctional officer
have a cigar.
Have a cigar. A correctional officer's life is only Most correctional officers live to the age of 58. Most correctional officers die within 2 years. That's the national statistic. We used to be number 5 on the totem pole as far as stress and PTSD. I think doctors and lawyers were the top, police, then it was us. Now we're number 1. And a lot of correctional staff suffer in silence because of stress. They deal with they see a lot of things and deal with a lot of things internally. And it's hard to, and I also, therapy, get therapists.
Right.
Have an outlet, talk to somebody. Because a lot of people don't understand what we go through. It's hard to deal with a situation where there's a fire. You see a dead body. You have to deal with a lot of stress. It's hot. You're sweaty. You're wearing a vest. You're wearing probably 30 pounds worth of equipment. You're ripping and running. And you have to switch that off and go home to your family, to your loved ones, to your spouses and your kids.
Right.
And you have to not treat them like an inmate.
Right.
You got to change that hat. And it's difficult. So you need that break. I tell people on the way home, play some calm music, switch your mindset, do something that kind of gets you back into your home life. I have routines I do. I'm on my way to work, I'm listening to music to, develop good habits to woosah. Sometimes I go in my office and I need 5 minutes I might put on some light jazz and sip some tea. I'm a tea drinker. I drink coffee on the regular, but I'm a tea drinker. I like the aroma, the stress teas, the smell. I just sit there and look out the window and go, oh, life is great.
Regular tea, no Long Island, right?
Regular tea.
Okay, all right. Just making sure. You said tea. You didn't say which one.
Yeah, so you have to develop some things to kind of, when you get a break, take that break, take vacations. I tell myself, take vacations. If you feel burnt out, tell us, because it's real. Burnout is real. And you're no good to us or the state or the offenders, because a lot of times those offenders, you are their counselor. Mm-hmm. And you have to be able to have your head on the swivel. You have to be able to give wise counsel. And we affect a lot of lives. Right. I've affected probably thousands of inmates. And I feel good when I see offenders that are out in the street. I see them at the grocery store, food line. I see them at a concert. And they say, hey, I appreciate you helping me. I appreciate your words of encouragement. I appreciate, you directing me. Right. But I have to be in a good headspace to be able to do that, because the system is meant to isolate, but also isolates the staff.
Right.
It also hardens the staff, and you deal with so many things, you become cold because you're numb to certain experiences. You see things every day that most normal people don't see. So you become numb. You're like, well, why are you responding that way? It's because I just saw a guy set himself on fire. Right. I saw a guy hang himself. I saw people stabbing each other, and I was covered in blood, their blood. I had to resuscitate them. I had to bandage their wounds, or I had to address the situation, and now my aggression level is on 100. Now I have to come home, and your kids are like doing things that may be annoying, but your aggression level is at 100. But you don't want to respond to your kids or your family members like that. So there's a lot that goes into peeling back and just...
Well, I'm glad you said that, because another factor in that ratio, or in what you said, is the ratio of inmates to correctional officers. Do you have a ballpark figure of what that ratio is?
It varies from prison to prison.
Right.
Some prisons.
You're at?
Where I'm at, we have probably close to 800 offenders. Mm-hmm. But I might have 15 staff.
And that's a lot of personalities to deal with. A lot of stuff going on. That's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, that's a lot to deal with. And especially if we're short-staffed and we can't do all the programs or things that they want. Guys are in the buildings. They want to go outside. When you're outside, you got 200 plus inmates on 1 yard. And and you got maybe 1 or 2 officers. That's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah.
You know, making sure, because we do have gangs. We do have offenders that are predators. So you have to make sure you're watching the weaker offenders or the ones that are not as strong who get preyed on. So you're always making sure they're not getting extorted. You're making sure that things aren't happening that's not supposed to happen. Because at the end of the day, you're responsible for someone's child. And you want to make sure they make it through the system.
Yeah. So, and I kind of want to just get a little bit light and talk about some of the things that you do to kind of take yourself away from that. You were talking about vacations and other things like that, but you're also a cigar connoisseur. So is the cigar for you a moment of relaxation? What connection does it have, or is it just deeper than that?
Well, I really got into cigars when I started hanging out with my Masonic brothers. I've had a family of smokers. My grandfather smoked cigars. Even though my parents didn't smoke, but my grandfather smoked cigars. As I started to move around different social groups, I'm part of a lot of different social groups. So I really started getting into cigars as a gentleman's sport. It's more of a relaxation, conversation. So I really started delving into what's behind smoking cigars. A good cigar should last you 40 minutes, which is a good conversation. You know, especially when it's paired with a good bourbon or a good coffee. One of my rituals is Sunday morning, I have a Sunday morning cigar with a good cup of coffee. I switch up the coffees, or I'll try something new. But there's nothing like a good cigar and a good cup of coffee. And sitting outside or sitting on my porch, the breeze is blowing, it's quiet. You have a chance to think about your week, think about your day, analyze where your life is. You know, what do I need to get done? What needs to get done? And really start sorting out what's my next plan of action? Where am I? And what's next? And, you know, that's one of my ways of relaxing. I like to go to the shooting range. I like to shoot targets. You know, shooting targets is always fun. I believe in guns. I practice martial arts. I also practice martial arts on my own. I think it's a good way of relaxation, stress relief, and being able to protect yourself, because life throws a lot of different things. And one thing I have learned is my threat assessment. I live that. Anyone in the military or law enforcement, we live threat assessments. I don't sit in certain places. I always know what my exits are. I always watch body language. I read tattoos. I used to be a gang officer, and I was on a gang task force. So I've dealt with different types of offenders. So when I see things, I kind of analyze people. I can walk in a room and pick up a mood. And if something doesn't feel right, I start, okay, maybe I need to leave, or let me put myself over here, because I don't know what's going on over there, but it's
not right.
It's not right, but I can't put my finger on it. And also, you learn how to read people. You know, so when I talk to people, within minutes, I can sum them up quickly to know I can deal with you, or, nah, you're not gonna listen. So let me excuse myself, because this may turn a different way. And, you know, I choose a path of least resistance. Unfortunately, in my career path, you can become very violent. And that, unfortunately, I hate to say that, but your tension level is up. Your attention, your tolerance for foolishness goes from up here to, so you're like, boom, you go from 0 to 60 quickly, because whether it's a trauma response from dealing with emergency situations or situations, you move different. So you have to understand what are your triggers, and make sure, sometimes I have to make sure I'm not triggering other people, because I might get into a zone where I'm looking at you funny because I'm just analyzing, and I'm not realizing I'm analyzing you, but you're reading me like, why are you looking at me like that? Why is he, what's wrong with him? Right. So I have to snap out of it and go, oh yeah, hey, I'm in the real world.
Right. Okay. So switching gears for a second, you were one of the first ones to go to Western North Carolina when the hurricane hit and the disaster hit.
Well, we had a lot of people,
Right.
First of all, we had a lot of state agencies that were down.
But you went as well.
But as the vice president,
Right.
one of my responsibilities is to the people of the state of North Carolina.
Right.
My first concern is, are the citizens okay? Are the state people who are working in state agencies okay? What are their statuses? We had people that we hadn't heard from. I reached out to other groups like, hey, have you heard from these people? Because we had people that were cut off. So we went out there to assess the damage.
Boots on the ground.
We brought food, clothes. A lot of people had lost their homes. They were in tents. We brought heaters, tents. We were paying for hotel rooms. We wanted to make sure that our citizens were okay and our state employees were taken care of, because that's one of our sworn duties, and that's one of my duties as an associate, as a leader of this state, as Senate, is to make sure my people are good and make sure that they're getting the FEMA's, they're getting help from the state, they're getting whatever help that we can give. And if they need time away from the job, we were lobbying for, hey, we lobbied for state employees to get 2 weeks off to get their affairs in order.
Right.
We were managing our emergency response. So I'm actually a critical incident commander. And one of my jobs is to analyze the resources and making sure that the people in my area their needs are being met. So those are things that are very important. The community is very important to me.
Right.
My people, my staff, state employees, what you're going through. They need to see that people care. And one of the things I want to leave as legacy in my political career as I run for president is I want to leave the state better than when I found it. I want to take all the things that I was trained, the things that I was taught, the advantages that I was given. I've had a chance to travel. I travel in and out of state. I actually meet with union leaders and association leaders all across the United States. I've built relationships. I'm bringing programs from other areas, such as wellness. We did a paper called "I Am Not Okay." We got legislation passed to help get correctional staff radios, talk about PTSD, the stresses, because people don't realize what we go through, and we want to make sure, like I said, at the end of the day, our people are taken care of. Because a lot of employees, we love the state, but sometimes we don't get the resources we need, the wellness. Staff is overweight. Some staff is overweight. Or they're just not getting the mental health issues met, or we're not getting the things we need for our families. So for us to adjust back. So those things are way heavy, and we want to make sure that we're not just getting good benefits, but we're also getting the care and the resources to help us if we do have faults. Some people do suffer have negative outlets such as alcohol. Some people do use drugs. So we have to make sure our people are taken care of, that we can make sure that they can get the help they need.
Well, hot damn, pour me another drink. Huh? Mr. Powell, my brother, it's been a pleasure. I've known you all these years, and still I've learned a couple things, man. This has been truly awesome for me. How about you?
Listen, my mother's a retired. Hold on. Where did you go? My mother's a retired teacher, and I had never heard about CNIC until right now, and that's something that possibly, all the things that she has gone through in the school system, she could have had or didn't know about the support, that she had, because I've never. And
we've expanded out over the years. I mean, right now we're doing the bus drivers, we're doing the techs, we're doing the janitors, we're teachers. Like I said, we cover the entire state. If you are a contractor or you work for the state, we fight for you.
Again, we want to thank our guest, Mr. Wendell Powell, for being here with us today. It has been such a pleasure with you being here. You've given us so much information.
I enjoyed it.
so much stuff that I didn't know, so much stuff that he didn't know, and he's known you forever.
Well, he knows a lot of the other sides, but I was like I say, it's been a pleasure growing, and it's a pleasure to do this podcast and to come full circle. A lot of times people don't see your growth. They see you at this point in your life or that point, but to come full circle and to grow from boys to men and actually go from being a hardhead that needed guidance in the community to be a person that's guiding the community and actually being able to give back and be instrumental in helping people find their way and grow is a pleasure.
So thank you for joining us for this episode. We really hope you enjoyed it and learned something. Please like, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, tell your friends about it. We really enjoy having this conversation. We hope that you enjoyed it.
And as always, let's
spark something real.
We hope you've enjoyed Smoke and Ice with Kelly and Wayne. Make sure you share, like, and subscribe. Tell a friend so they too can be informed and entertained. For more information about the show, go to smokeandice.net.